So this week we are continuing with our hosting a virtual book launch series, and this is part 2. So if you have not watched part 1, the link is provided in the description box below. Now, before I roll into today's topics, there were 3 things that I failed to mention last week that you should include in your action plan for your virtual book launch. The first thing is establishing a time frame or length of time that you will be having your virtual book launch. My virtual book launch lasted 1 hour and 15 minutes. And I also hosted it in the afternoon because I knew that usually in the mornings people are trying to do things with their children. So I kind of picked an afternoon start time or an afternoon virtual book launch because I felt that it would be much better for my target audience. Now, that is one thing that you want to consider as you are planning your virtual book launch. What time frame and what length of time is most appropriate for your target audience, and you will develop your run of show based off of that. Well, what is a run of show? A run of show is a timeline or essentially a sequential breakdown of everything from setup to breakdown of your virtual book launch. And you want to make sure that your run of show includes things for like setup, introductions, discussions. If you're going to be having any raffles or giveaways, you want to include that in your breakdown. Any discussions with any featured guests or authors. So you want to make sure that you have the appropriate amount of time allocated for your entire event. And I would also include breakdown of all technology equipment and things like that. So you want to make sure your run of show is very detailed. The second thing you want to think about is your equipment. What equipment will you need for your book launch, whether it is a simple laptop or a tablet, or if you'll be recording via your iPhone, or if you have one of those high-speed cameras that will be recording for you. What equipment will you need for your launch to record and also feed into the various social media outlets that you may be broadcasting to? And if you are using an alternate location or outside of your home, how will you get your equipment from point A to point B? And the final thing that you want to have in your action plan is you want to write out your virtual book launch backdrop or background. What are you going to have? Are you going to have balloons, banners? Where are you going to place your books? If you are doing any raffle items, where are they going to be placed? Because you want to be able to capture your entire background within your screen. If you're using a tablet, iPhone, or a camera. So you want to take into consideration, one, the amount of things that you're going to have in your background because you don't want it to look too cluttered. Now on to the fun stuff. So like I said before, today we're going to be talking about site visits and day of logistics for your virtual book launch. Now you may be wondering, if I'm doing a virtual book launch from the comfort of my home, why do I need to do a site visit? Well, you are assembling a team. So therefore, whoever may be running your audio visual equipment, they will need to come and physically view the space that the virtual book launch will be taking place. So this will help see where cameras should be placed, what angles these cameras should be placed in, if you're going to be using a phone or a tablet, how far back do these things need to be in order to capture your entire background, how many outlets are in your living room or bedroom or wherever you may be casting from or broadcasting from. So that's going to determine the placement of equipment. Where are people going to sit? Will people be able to socially distance within the comforts of your home? And also it will allow your team to determine the amount of time that it takes them to get from their residence to your residence as well. If you are hosting your virtual book launch from a location outside of your home, your site visit will allow you to determine the distance from your place of residence to your virtual book launch site location as well. Also, you will be able to test any audio visual equipment. For me, I was able to test some of the audio equipment at my church. Also figure out camera placement, where chairs were going to be, where moderators were going to be, where I wanted some guests, because I did have a couple of family members come up for my book launch, so I was able to position chairs about 6 feet apart. Also, I got to kind of set up or do a mock setup of my virtual book launch chairs, where banners were going to be, where balloons were going to be, Also got to test out the computer system to make sure that the images that we wanted to cast on the TV, we were able to do that as well. So on your site visit, if you are, whether you're at your home or whether you are at another location, you essentially want to take the run of show that you created in the step of developing an action plan. This is your time to test that run of show out from start to finish. Is your audio visual equipment working properly? Do you know how to work the mics? Do you know how to stream from Facebook, YouTube, all those things? This is your time to test those things out to see what works and what doesn't. And I suggest doing a site visit approximately 3 weeks prior to your actual event. And then if you don't feel comfortable, or if you kind of tweak some things, maybe do another site visit the week before to go through the entire run of show once again, just to make sure that things are seamless the day of your event. Also with the site visit, if your guests are able, bring your guests with you, so therefore they can get a sense of the site as well, where they will be seated, and any additional things that you may want them to bring the day of the virtual book launch. And one more thing about the site visit. Now, if you are transporting any type of equipment, like I said, computers, tablets, phones, any type of equipment, this also gives you the opportunity to identify places of storage. So if you don't want to be carrying or lugging all of that equipment the day of, you just want to get to your event, everything is there. You don't want to have any worries about forgetting something the day of, because the day of you are going to be so focused on the event that you may forget something. So on your site visit, identify a place or somewhere where there is adequate storage for you to maybe take your equipment there the week of or the day before, just so that you can have everything in place and you won't forget anything the day of your event. Now we're moving on to day of logistics. So the date for your virtual book launch has arrived. So what are some things you need to have in place? Well, first, you want to make sure that a final copy of the run of show has been sent to everyone on your team. Then you want to make sure that you get to the facility at least an hour and a half before the start of your event. Now, this is going to give time if you want to get hair and makeup done. If you need longer, then definitely schedule longer. I didn't have any hair or makeup for my virtual book launch, so I didn't have to worry about that. My hour and a half basically consisted of setting up cameras, playing music, making sure that the banners were in their proper place, setting up the books, setting up the raffle items, setting up the chairs, doing a test run with the microphones, doing a test run with the images or the background images that were displayed on the TV, and also kind of reviewing questions that I had prepped beforehand regarding, my book launch and processes, and also going over any last minute things that myself or my event planner had in mind for the book launch, if there's some things that kind of needed to be tweaked the day of, and also giving time for my guests to arrive, us to have a brief conversation before the event, and kind of get those last few butterflies out before we go live. Also the day of, if you have a friend or if you even have a photographer on your team, make sure they try to get some action shots of you maybe setting up for your event or just prepping. Maybe you're doing hair and makeup, or you're preparing the atmosphere, not atmosphere, that sounds very churchy, but you're preparing your venue for your virtual book launch. So try to get some behind the scenes footage of you preparing for your virtual book launch, because those are things that you can share later with your target audience. Finally, make sure you have some thank you gifts for everyone who has helped make your virtual book launch a success. For myself, I gave gift cards, some candles from my candle company, just to show my appreciation to my event planner, also my moderator that helps kind of facilitate answering questions, my guest speaker. Now, sometimes that can get a bit pricey, but depending on how large or small you want your event to be, it doesn't help to give a note of thanks or express gratitude for individuals who helped to make your event a success. Alrighty, and that wraps it up for hosting a virtual book launch part 2. Now, that is all that I have for you all this week. I wish you all a dope, amazing, prosperous, and productive week. It's a new week, so time to identify new opportunities to grow and stretch yourself. Lord willing, I will see you all next week. Bye.